Two young gentlemen, dressed entirely like British soldiers and carrying shiny rifles, accompanied by two dogs resembling polar bears, were walking through a deep mountain area where the leaves rustled underfoot, talking as they went. This mountain area is really strange. There isn't a single bird or beast around. I'd love to just shoot anything with a bang. Shooting a few rounds into the yellow side of a deer would be quite thrilling, wouldn't it? It would spin around and then collapse with a thud. They were deep in the mountains. Even the professional hunter who had guided them had gotten a bit lost and disappeared somewhere. It was that remote. Moreover, the mountains were so terrifying that the two dogs, resembling polar bears, became dizzy, barked for a while, foamed at the mouth, and died. "Truly, I've suffered a loss of 2,400 yen, said one gentleman, slightly lifting the eyelid of one of the dogs. "I've lost 2,800 yen, said the other, bowing his head in frustration. The first gentleman, looking a bit pale, stared intently at the other gentleman's face and said, "I think I'll head back." "Yes, I'm starting to feel cold and hungry too, so I think I'll head back." "Let's call it a day then. On the way back, we can buy a mountain bird for 10 yen at the inn we stayed at yesterday. There were rabbits too. In the end, it's the same thing. Let's head back." However, the problem was that they had no idea which way to go to return. The wind blew fiercely, the grass rustled, the leaves crackled, and the trees groaned. "I'm really hungry. My side has been hurting for a while now." "Me too. I don't want to walk anymore." "I don't want to walk. Oh, what a bother. I want to eat something." "I really want to eat." The two gentlemen said this as they stood among the rustling pampas grass. When they happened to glance back, they saw a magnificent Western-style house. At the entrance, there was a sign that read, "Restaurant, Western Cuisine, Wildcat House." Hey, this is perfect. The place looks quite inviting. Let's go in. Wow, it's odd to find something like this here. But anyway, we can get a meal, right? Of course, that's what the sign says. Let's go in. I'm so hungry I feel like I'm going to faint. The two stood at the entrance. It was made of white ceramic bricks and was truly splendid. There was a glass door with gold lettering that read, "Please come in, no need to hesitate." The two were delighted and said, "How about this? The world is well made, isn't it? Today was tough, but now there's something good like this. This place is a restaurant, but they serve meals for free." "It seems so. No need to hesitate must mean that." They pushed the door open and went inside. It was immediately a hallway. On the back of the glass door, it was written in gold letters, "Especially welcoming to those who are plump or young." They were overjoyed at the special welcome. Hey, we're being specially welcomed. We fit both categories. As they proceeded down the hallway, they came to a door painted light blue. What a peculiar house. Why are there so many doors? This is the Russian style. In cold regions or in the mountains, this is common. When they attempted to open the door, they saw written in yellow letters above, "This is a restaurant with many orders, so please be understanding." It's quite popular, isn't it? Right here in the mountains. That's true. Look, even in Tokyo, there aren't many large restaurants on the main streets. As they conversed, they opened the door. On the back, it read, "There are quite a few orders, but please bear with each one." "What on earth does this mean?" one gentleman asked, frowning. "Well, it must mean that there are so many orders that it takes time to prepare, but please be patient." That's probably it. I want to get into a room soon and sit at a table. However, there was another door, and next to it was a mirror with a long-handled brush beneath it. The door bore red letters that read, "Guests, please tidy your hair here and remove the mud from your shoes." This is quite reasonable. I underestimated it, thinking it was just the mountains. It's a house with strict manners. Surely, quite important people visit frequently. So the two tidied their hair and removed the mud from their shoes. As soon as they placed the brush on the board, it vanished in a blur, and the wind rushed into the room. The two were startled, clung to each other, and opened the door with a bang, entering the next room. They both thought they needed to eat something warm soon to regain their strength, or it would be a disaster. Inside the door, there was another peculiar message. "Please leave your rifles and ammunition here." A black stand was positioned right beside it. Indeed, it's strange to dine while holding a rifle. No, quite important people must frequent this place. The two removed their rifles, unbuckled their belts, and placed them on the stand. There was yet another black door. "Please remove your hats, coats, and shoes." "What do you think, should we?" "We have no choice, let's do it." Surely very important people are inside. The two hung their hats and overcoats on hooks, removed their shoes, and stepped through the door. On the back of the door, it read, "Please leave tie pins, cufflinks, glasses, wallets, and other metal items, especially sharp ones here." Next to the door stood a splendid black-painted safe, its mouth open and even a key provided. Ah, it seems they use electricity for some dish. Metal items are dangerous, especially sharp ones. That's right. So we probably settle the bill here on the way out. It seems so. Yes, definitely. The two removed their glasses, took off their cufflinks, and placed everything in the safe, locking it with a click. As they walked a bit further, they encountered another door, and in front of it was a glass jar. The door had this written on it: "Please apply the cream from the jar thoroughly to your face, hands, and feet." Peering inside, it was indeed milk cream. What does it mean to apply cream? It's because it's extremely cold outside. If the room is too warm, it prevents chapping. It seems quite important people are inside. Unexpectedly, we might get close to nobility here. The two applied the cream from the jar to their faces and hands, then removed their socks to apply it to their feet. There was still some left, so they each pretended to apply it to their faces while secretly eating it. Then they hurriedly opened the door, and on the back it read, "Did you apply the cream well? Did you apply it to your ears too? There was a small cream jar here as well." Ah, I didn't apply it to my ears. I almost let my ears chap. The owner here is really thorough. Yes, they pay attention to every detail, but I really want to eat something soon. It's no use just being in the hallway. Then, directly in front of them stood the next door. "The meal will be ready shortly. We won't keep you waiting for more than 15 minutes. You can begin eating immediately. Please quickly sprinkle the perfume from the bottle onto your head." In front of the door sat a golden perfume bottle. The two of them sprinkled the perfume onto their heads. However, the perfume had the scent of vinegar. "This perfume smells like vinegar. What's happening?" "It must be a mistake. The maid probably caught a cold and mixed it up." The two of them opened the door and stepped inside. On the back of the door, large letters were inscribed. "We apologize for the numerous instructions and any inconvenience. This is the final one. Please thoroughly rub the salt from the jar all over your body." Indeed, there was a splendid blue ceramic salt jar, but this time, both were shocked and stared at each other's cream-covered faces. This is really peculiar. I think so too. The numerous instructions are actually meant for us. So, a Western restaurant, in my view, isn't a place where they serve Western food to guests, but where they transform guests into Western food and consume them. This means that we are... They began to tremble and couldn't speak anymore. We are... Oh no! They began to tremble and couldn't speak anymore. "Run!" One gentleman, trembling, tried to push the door behind them, but it wouldn't budge an inch. Further inside, there was another door with 2 large keyholes and cutouts in the shape of a silver fork and knife. "Thank you for your trouble. It's wonderfully prepared. Please come into our stomachs." It was written, and from the keyholes 2 blue eyes were peering at them. "Oh no," they trembled. "Oh no," they trembled. The two began to cry. Inside, they were whispering. "It's no use. They've caught on. They don't seem to be rubbing in the salt." Of course. The boss's writing was terrible. Writing something foolish like, "We apologize for the many orders and the inconvenience." It doesn't matter. They won't even share the bones with us. That's true. But if they don't come in here, it's our responsibility. Shall we call them? Let's call them. "Hey, guests, please come quickly. Come on, come on." The plates are washed, and the greens are already salted. All that's left is to combine you with the greens and place you on a white plate. Please come quickly. Yes, come on, come on. Or do you dislike salad? In that case, shall we start a fire and fry you? Anyway, please come quickly. The two were so distressed that their faces looked like crumpled paper, and they gazed at each other, trembling and crying silently. Inside, they laughed softly and called out again. "Come on, come on. If you cry so much, the cream will wash away." "Yes, right away. We'll bring it immediately. Please come quickly. Please come quickly. The master has already put on a napkin, holding a knife, licking his lips, waiting for you." The two wept and wept and wept. At that moment, suddenly from behind, "Woof, woof, grrr!" came the sound, and 2 dogs resembling polar bears burst through the door into the room. The eyes at the keyholes vanished instantly, and the dogs growled, circling the room for a while, then barked loudly again and leaped at the next door. The door opened with a clatter, and the dogs were sucked in. In the darkness beyond the door, there was a meow, growl, rumble sound, followed by rustling. The room vanished like smoke, and the two stood shivering in the cold among the grass. Looking around, they saw their jackets, shoes, wallets, and tie pins hanging from branches or scattered at the roots. The wind blew fiercely, the grass rustled, the leaves crackled, and the trees groaned. The dogs growled and returned, and from behind someone was shouting, "Sir, sir!" The two suddenly regained their spirits and shouted, "Hey, hey, we're here, come quickly!" A professional hunter wearing a straw hat emerged through the grass. There, the two finally felt a sense of relief. They ate the dumplings the hunter had brought, purchased a mountain bird for 10 yen along the way, and returned to Tokyo. However, the faces of the two, which had once become as crumpled as paper, never returned to their original state, even after returning to Tokyo and taking a bath.